Now let's take it to the coveted Michigan D, all right? So we're going to start off with the weak side defensive end position, and of course we have the very favorite of all Michigan football fans, Chase Winovich.
Well, Chase Winovich, the man with the orange hair, Lena, came back, could have gone pro, maybe been a second or third round draft pick. You know, people have said, I've seen some of these early projections, if he can take another level up like he did the last couple seasons and really bring it there at, in his fifth year at the weak side defensive end with Rahsan Gary, with some others getting a lot of the attention from the opposing offense, Chase Winovich can bump himself up there into a early second round, potentially even a late first round NFL draft pick. Really excited to see him come back for 2018. Lena, Carlo Kemp, Luigi Villain, guys that have really proven themselves, but will have the opportunity to do so in a backup role this year.
All right, let's take it to the strong side now. Of course, we have Rashan Gary, another fan favorite for the Michigan Wolverines. And then Aiden Hutchinson, another friend of the program. He's coming in as a true freshman. You have him in that third string spot, James.
Yeah, I think Aiden Hutchinson's going to get some snaps this year. I do not see him redshirting, considering Rashan Gary and considering Chase Winovich are going to be gone after this season. Most likely, Rashan could come back for 2019, but most people have him a top 10 pick in the 2019 NFL draft, likely to go pro early. So we'll see what happens, but all eyes, Lena, around Rashan Gary when it comes to Michigan football this year. Many have him as, I said, a top 10 draft pick. Jim Harbaugh has said recently he's unquestionably the best player on the entire roster. And for a lot of Michigan football fans, he has not lived up to the hype. I think a lot of people thought, hey, by the time he's a sophomore, he's going to be first team All-American, first pick in the draft. He is the only player in modern recruiting, which is about like 2000, 2001 to present, Rashan Gary is, to be the unquestioned #1 player across all recruiting services in his senior year. I think that actually matched this year in 2018 by the quarterback who went to Clemson. But at the time, 2016, Rashan Gary, considering maybe the best recruit of all time when it comes to consensusness about his abilities coming out of his senior year. So people expect All-American year from him. A lot of great defensive ends, and not only the Big Ten, but all across the country he's got to compete with. But expect a big year from Rashan Gary. He's obviously your unquestioned starter at the defensive end position.
There's a lot of returning starters on defense, but not at this position, James, the nose tackle position. We have Michael Dwumfour. So he's a redshirt sophomore, and then he's backed up by Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Yeah, I mean, Dwumfour is the spring hype, coach hype, kind of maybe a little bit deserved, obviously. Guy putting in a lot of good work, a guy making plays in spring practice. I think also motivating other players maybe to get with it. But Jim Harbaugh, Don Brown, the Michigan coaching staff, they really loved what Michael Dwumfour. A lot of people pegged him as a starter, and so as of now, without any different information, I'm going to put him as starter. Although just a few weeks back, I didn't necessarily believe the hype, and I'm starting to believe it the more I talk to people. He's going to have the opportunity to be a 3-year starter, Lena, and after Winovich and Gary, leave from the outside, himself and another guy, Aubrey Solomon, we're going to talk about here in just a moment, are going to be the anchors of the Michigan defensive line as we go into the future after the Rashan Gary, Chase Winovich era that we're kind of probably wrapping up this season in 2018.
All right, you talked about him. Let's go a little bit more in depth now, James. Aubrey Solomon, the sophomore, he's going to be starting for the Wolverines this year at defensive tackle. What do you expect out of him?
I expect a lot out of him, actually. He unseated Brian Monet as the starter last year. We've seen Monet in his 5th year. Yeah. Monet is a guy 3 years ago, in 2015, as a redshirt freshman. Jim Harbaugh stack ranked the entire roster kind of coming into the summer. He had Monet as a top 5 player. I think actually top 3, along with guys like Jabril Peppers and some others. So to see Solomon come in and unseat Monet last year as a as a true freshman, be a starter by the end of the year. He was Michigan's biggest recruiting get in the 2017 class from a defensive side. 5-star out of the state of Georgia. Many people thought he was going to flake out and decommit and go somewhere else, like his teammate, a linebacker who we're not going to mention. I will mention him, Otis Reese, did this past year, his high school teammate. He stuck with Michigan, was a starter by the end of the year, and I believe that you're going to see Rashan Gary sophomore year performance out of him, get really strong performance, and he'll be the unquestioned leader of the Michigan defensive line in 2019. In Atlanta, with all these juniors likely to go pro after this year, you might see Aubrey Solomon as the unquestioned leader of the entire Michigan defense in 2019 and beyond.
It's a great point, James. Let's bring it down to the linebacking core. We have Drew Singleton, another new starter. He's a redshirt freshman. What about his play, James, really makes you think that Singleton has what it takes?
Well, it's tough to say. I'm really relying on people's what people are telling me who have seen Singleton play and have seen him in practice last year, saw him in high school before he was injured, and have seen what he's done this spring. Now, Michigan is he was returning 9 stars. There's only 2 roles really up for grabs. One of them being, a defensive line position we gave to Michael Dwumfour. The other is a linebacker position, the weak side linebacker that Mike McCray, held for the last couple seasons. So we will see out of Singleton. I was told he had the best spring of all. Michigan brought in, I think, 4 or 5 linebackers in the 2017 recruiting class. Guys like Singleton, other players like Jordan Anthony that were 4 stars or above. So a lot of people going for this role. Lena, Singleton is the one. If he wouldn't have been hurt in his 2016 season in high school, Lena, I was told he would have been a top 25 player nationally. As such, he missed his senior year with a knee injury, dropped kind of down to the 100-ish range, and wasn't recruited as high. Fully healthy now, Drew Singleton. As we stand today, towards the end of June 2017, 2 months to left, 2 months left to the season opener. I've got Drew Singleton as your starter to kind of come in there with Devin Bush and some other guys. I think this linebacking crew is going to be all-time for Michigan this year.
I like the call, James. Let's bring it to the middle linebacker position now. And, of course, we have Devin Bush Jr., the junior. He's going to be the starter, followed by Noah Furbush and then Cameron McGrone. What do you tell me about this position for the Wolverines in 2018?
Well, McGrone's got to be, he's got to play this year. He is being groomed to take over for Devin Bush, who most believe will go pro after this year. Devin Bush kind of was shot out of a rocket last year in AT&T Stadium versus Florida, and he never stopped sailing across the football field all season long. Michigan's only All-American last year, 3rd-team AP All-American Devin Bush was. I expect him to come back with authority this year. He is a freak of nature athlete. He is so fast, not even funny. Furbush is going to get a lot of snaps. I think Furbush is a guy who could also put his hand down in the defensive line. Michigan, we've been told, will do some some zone looks this year. I think if they do zone, I think you could see Furbush being a guy who might rush from the outside, give Rahsan Gary, give one of those defensive tackles a breather. If not Furbush, though, at the backup, I think McGrone could elevate himself because of his ability, high-level recruit, and will be the unquestioned starter, I believe, at middle linebacker in 2019 should Devin Bush Jr. go pro. Noah Furbush, though, Lena, kind of you call him a Chase Winovich's younger brother. They look exactly the same with a helmet on with that blonde flowing hair. Noah Furbush will be heard from this year, whether it's at linebacker or putting his hand down at the defensive line position.
All right, we're going to take it to Viper now. That's one of the best positions on the Michigan football defense, of course. And we have Khaleke Hudson, followed by Josh Ross. He's going to be his backup. And then we have, after that, his name absolutely.
No worries.
Jordan Anthony, thank you. 3rd-string redshirt freshman.
Yeah, Khaleke Hudson is the guy, Lena. The second half of the year, he had a little bit of trouble. After Michigan got out of the out-of-conference season, Hudson was one that was getting picked on a little bit by defense, wasn't able to pick up some of the coverages, was getting burned in man-to-man when it came to the passing game. The second half of the season, he may have been Michigan's best player on the entire team. We know he broke that record for tackles for loss. I believe it was against Minnesota. I'll have to look that one up to be for sure. But another candidate to go pro early this year, Lena. As such, Jordan Anthony, Josh Ross, both in that 2017 recruiting class, will be players who will be vying to take his role going forward in the future. But these are that 2017 guys, Ross, Anthony, some of the other ones we've talked about already, that are going to be the next wave of linebackers for Michigan once this current crop goes pro. If we've got a couple of early entries like we may in Hudson and Bush. So keep an eye out for Ross. Keep an eye out for Jordan Anthony. He's not a name I've heard enough about this spring. We'll see what Anthony has for us this year.
All right, we're going to take it to the cornerback position now, the secondary. We have Lavert Hill. He's going to be the starter for the Michigan Wolverines. He's a junior, followed by Ambry Thomas and Miles Sims. James, there's a lot of hype around this corner position, I feel like, going into this season.
I believe Michigan is the best corner combo in the country. Some people point to schools like LSU and some others that may have it. But if you look at the analytics, the man-analytics, so what they did when the ball was thrown at them, what they did in man-on-man coverage, what these guys did when they were put on an island with no help. Lavert Hill, and then we'll talk about him in a second, David Long, had some of the best stats in college football over the past decade in man-to-man coverage. Now, that really helps when you have a great defensive line that puts a lot of pressure when you've got guys like Hudson and Bush protecting you in front in case there's a quarterback draw or something like that. But these players, as true sophomores last year, really, there was no kind of fall off in production from Jordan Lewis and Channing Stribling, who were all Big Ten and All-American level players, obviously with Lewis being a high-level contributor for the Dallas Cowboys this season. No drop off from NFL level guys to 2017. Now these guys are seasoned, both juniors going into 2018. And I think, Lena, both guys who are going to be definitely candidates to leave early for the NFL. Michigan could have 5, 6, 7, 8 guys leave early this year. Without question, break the record unless some reason they all decide to stay another year.
There you go. You talked about him, James. David Long, he's going to be on the other side, backed up by Brandon Watson, the redshirt senior.
And so David Long is really the forgotten man. As I said before, Pro Football Focus had him against coverage lane. And when you were in one-on-one coverage, the best cover cornerback in 2017 of any season since at least 2007 when they started tracking this metric. Quarterbacks threw for at 11 quarterback rating when he was covering their man, which is just phenomenal. He's the forgotten man. Some people say he might be the 6th or 7th best player in this defense, but he could be a first-round pick in the NFL draft. He could be a first-team All-American. That's how stacked this defense is. Michigan's cornerbacks are going to have no problem this year covering defenders, much like they haven't had for the last several years under Don Brown's tutelage.
All right, a lot of hype around that corner position. Let's stick in the secondary. Go to the strong safety position. We have Josh Metellus. Now, he's a junior, and he's going to be the starter for the Wolverines.
Sure, and he started last year as a true sophomore, and he was one of the guys people were calling Michigan fans whipping boy. Really, I think the safety was really the only weak spot in the defense, and it really showed out in that bowl game loss, showed out against Penn State big time, outside of Mike McCray just getting completely smoked by Saquon Barkley. Casey Hughes, a name to keep your eye in. Redshirt senior, a 5th-year transfer from University of Utah, starter at cornerback. Not good enough to start for Michigan at cornerback, so where Michigan needs the most help potentially is the safety position. So they're going to move him a little slower to safety. I think he's going to get plenty of snaps, has an opportunity to unseat Metellus. So Josh Metellus is your starter, Lena. We will see what happens with guys like Casey Hughes and some others going into 2018.
All right, is the safety position as strong as the corner position?
Not even close.
Yeah,
not even close.
Didn't think so.
Under no circumstances are they even close to being as strong.
All right, let's get into the free safety position now. And our starter there is going to be, of course, none other than Tyree Kinnel, who's also in his senior year.
Look, we had a segment that the fans didn't like us too much. People were a little too sensitive, which was called "He Gotta Go" for about the first half of last year. We ultimately we succumbed to fans, people saying, "Oh, you can't call out these are college kids." I don't agree with that at all. But Tyree Kinnel was always on my "he got to go" every time Michigan got torched because he was always the one getting torched. So Brad Hawkins, former wide receiver, has a chance. Jamarick Woods, someone that got some snaps last year. We'll see what happens with those guys. But if anyone in this defense that's a starter now, a returning starter of the 9 that has a chance to be unseated, I think Kinnel has got to be has his ears pinned back, kind of looking over all of his shoulders. Anytime he gets called into a meeting, he better be expecting, this is the one, this is where they're benching me, this is what's going, because he just did not perform in the second half of the year last year. Keep an eye out for Hawkins and Woods to be, guys nipping on his heels to take that role from him.
All right, so that's the wrap-up with the defense. We'll quickly brush over the special teams and what the Michigan Wolverines have going on with that side of the ball in 2018. As for the kicker, it's the same guy.
Yeah, so look, a kicker, punter, kick returner, and punt returner, it's really the same folks returning from last year.
Yep.
We all know about Quinn Nordin. Hart and Robbins both got snaps last year. I don't know who it's ultimately going to be. Ambry Thomas is your starting kick returner. And, of course, Donovan Peoples-Jones is probably Michigan's best punt returner since Steve Breston over a decade ago. So those are your special teams, all 4 starters returning. Linda, this is the most starting returning players Michigan's had in my lifetime.
It's a huge upside, no doubt, James.